a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. Ladies and gentlemen, Godzillavangelists is very proud to present the Mothra song!
Let's do it ladu hamba kasakuya landa bang yurada odukala kasakaya.
That was amazing!
Sam, we've been outshone for sure.
Like, I was planning on maybe hopping in there and being silly, but, like, no way should we mess with that.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to Godzillavangelists. Today we are covering Mothra vs. Godzilla, aka Godzilla vs. The Thing. And that song was played by my friend, Melinda West. She's a musician. She's the front woman of a great band called Sugar Rum Tantrum. Recently, she was at Women Fuck Shit Up Fest, which is a very good show from what I hear. She is going to be in a BuzzFeed video about learning accordion, and I'm sure you can see her playing around the LA area frequently. Melinda, that was great. Thanks for being here.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
So I have to ask you the question I ask every one of our guests. What was your Godzilla giant monster experience up to now? What was it like?
Very minimal. It mostly consisted of commercials and playing with dinosaur toys, which I know is different from Godzilla, but I'm going to take a little bit of credit because I do like dinosaurs a lot.
Yeah, that's close.
Yes. I was definitely a dinosaur kid. Before I knew Godzilla, I would play with my dinosaur toys all the time. So I say that counts. That's like a good pre-Godzilla lead-in.
And then he found Godzilla and his life was changed forever.
As we all know, I became a Godzilla evangelist. One thing you, the audience, should know about today is we're experimenting, so things are going to be a little bit different. Let us know what you did and didn't like. Send us an email or a DM on one of our social media, and we'd love to know what you think. But we're going to make things a little bit different today. But I think it'll be just as fun, if not more so. I know that you guys always groan when I do this, but I have a little history lesson for you today, Sam and Joanna.
Hey, I like the history lessons.
So I think you're gonna like this one, Sam. So this is the first movie to involve Henry G. Saperstein, or Hank Saperstein. He bought this movie and brought it to America, and he's a real classic gregarious Hollywood producer. He owned the UPA studio pretty much solely because he wanted the rights to Mr. Magoo to make money off the Mr. Magoo franchise. But he worked for AIP too, and he bought this movie with them. And he loved the idea of Godzilla, but he had his own ideas about how things should be. So do you guys remember the scene that comes out of nowhere in this movie where there's like an American ship launching missiles at Godzilla?
Yeah, where they're suddenly like getting news and ideas from the American ship is like, we can't harm the people.
Oh, you mean in like when the missiles are firing off and they just keep reloading the same little missile launcher? It's like the same shot. 19 times.
27.
Was that Saperstein?
Yes, that scene was filmed by Toho at his request. He specifically was like, we need a scene where the Americans are getting in there and helping. And
It's either you put in the missile scene or it's Mr. Magoo is in the movie. Your choice.
So they shot that, and as a result, that's the only scene that Toho shot that's in the American version and not in the Japanese version. They didn't want that, but he was like, you're absolutely going to film that for me. And he ended up buying or even like directly producing at least 6 more monster movies at Toho. He was a major figure in their licensing for decades. Like, he even helped the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie get made. He helped broker that deal.
This guy is a hero.
And he's known for being like a complete bullshitter. Like, every time somebody would ask him a question, he would just lie his ass off about it. Like,
when you say that he's a big Mr. Hollywood, I just imagine him as, who's our favorite guy who just like loved his beach vacation? What's his name from the first American movie?
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin. Steve Martin was a real man who then wanted to make his own Godzilla.
I just imagine Steve Martin, that character, walking around, hey, I got a movie for ya.
That's you're not that far off.
Suppose we set this one in Cairo.
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of going piece by piece through the story today, I'm going to open up with a little synopsis. Maybe Sam or Joanna will take responsibility for it, as maybe we'll rotate through it, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then we're going to talk about, the characters and the set pieces, but if you're looking to know what happened in the story, watch the movie. We want you to do that anyway. But here's the quick recap. All right, I'm going to put on my best dramatic voice. Maybe somebody can set the scene with some wind. Can somebody...
Oh, yeah. I wrote, one hell of a storm. That was my first note.
A giant egg washes ashore in a small fishing village, which sells it to 2 greedy businessmen. The egg turns out to be Mothra's, and the twin fairies try to get the egg back with the help of a reporter, a photographer, and a scientist. But our heroes fail, and soon after, Godzilla attacks. They ask for Mothra's help, and after some persuasion, Mothra goes to fight Godzilla. She dies, but while Godzilla fights the military, her egg hatches, and the twin larvae dispatch Godzilla with a lot of webbing.
A lot of webbing. I realized I was making wind when we were way past the typhoon scene. And we were way onto the reporters on the beach.
That's all right. It was big enough of a storm that it can carry through the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
It really was. That was one of those things where they're like, let's do 270 shots of it. They really wanted to set the stage,
Yes. That said, pretty good storm. I like it.
It was a good looking storm.
I was wondering, is that part in like the Universal ride? Where they show you that rainfall thing? And it's like, I don't know, I just felt like it was, I don't know if it was Universal, I'm assuming it's not, but...
Oh, no, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then I
The set ride?
Yeah.
Where the whole town flips over and, like, floods? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a miniature, which makes it even more impressive that you thought it was full scale. But I think it's kind of the same technique. So, how about these characters, guys? That was the worst intro of all time, but I'm keeping it anyway. So, first up, we got Sakai, the reporter. Akira Takarada, our handsome boy, is back. He's back for the first time ever, but not the last time.
He was the handsome boy from the first one?
He was, yeah.
He looks, he's less handsome now.
He's such a dick in this movie.
Well, it's 10 years later,
Yeah.
Sam. People
Yeah.
age.
Also, his personality. I would not want to hang out with that guy.
Wow.
Yeah, he's not the best with his loyal photographer.
He was going at her, man.
Yeah.
She was just trying her best.
I feel like they wanted to have a reunion of the Mothra characters. They have a reporter, a photographer, and a scientist. But I feel like they couldn't get their A team back, so this is sort of the B team take on that trio of characters. But the relationship isn't as warm as last time. There's a real confrontation between Sakai and Junko at first.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's this weird, like, they're trying to build this weird kind of maybe relationship between them, but it just doesn't pan out quite exactly, and then it's kind of awkward, and it's kind of weird because he sucks to her, so...
Yeah, it's not exactly something you're rooting for.
Right.
And my original crush, they're back. The twin fairies, Emi and Yumi Ito.
And they're wearing just the cutest little outfits.
They are. And you pointed out that we don't know who's doing them this time because they're out of show business. You know, they're back home, but they have outfits, as you put it, like they're about to go see Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah, straight up wearing diamonds and furs. all dressed up, ready to go.
And puffy little hats.
Little hats.
Which is admittedly strange for people who come from an island where people don't wear shirts.
Right.
But they do a few like really great original songs in this one. Sacred Springs, which is the song they sing when our heroes meet them on the island, is sincerely one of my all-time favorite songs, bar none. Like, I'm not just talking Godzilla songs. I love it a lot.
I'm gonna call your bluff. What about Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire?
Oh my god.
I didn't say it was my all-time favorite.
Billy Joel anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't beat We Didn't Start the Fire.
My friend sang that her senior year in chorus, and she's like, it was a nightmare, but amazing.
I'm not picturing like a church choir singing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's a kind of a hellish angle.
Smoky Mafia.
Yeah. She said they had to do dance moves on the little rafters.
Oh man.
All squished together. Hand motions mostly.
But yeah, Melinda, what did you think of the music?
Yeah, the music was it was fun to learn. It's kind of like with the harmonies, it kind of sounds a little bit like Balkan with the, the way the harmonies are with the seconds and with those little like yells, like what is it? Matsuya! It's kind of like I was in a Bulgarian choir, and that's like a very typical thing. But then the melodic movement, for some of the songs like Sacred Springs, it's a little more like churchy, like an organ or like kind of traditional sounding. So it's an interesting mix.
Yeah, it's and that makes sense because the composer of this score, along with many other great Godzilla scores, Akira Fubuke, he was trained by a Russian composer. Yeah. But yeah, so then we have the bad guys, Kumayama and Torahata.
Wait, sorry, real quick. I think I counted when they were singing to wake up the eggs. I think they said Mothra 237 times. So just in case anyone is in that situation again, that is what it will take. It will take time and many shots of it.
If you're at bar trivia and they ask you.
And more harmonies every time.
Now I know. It's like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Right.
That's 499. I did it when I was in 4th grade.
What?
Impressive.
That is the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
Couldn't taste anything for a week.
Your tongue was just like raw and like
raw.
Oh man.
So then we have the bad guys, Kumiyama and Torahata, who are both really hamming it up. Great comedic performances.
Not as strong though as our dear old friend from
Dr. Taco?
No, it does not approach Dr. Taco.
Do you think they were trying in their... Do you think they were like, oh man, I'm never going to be that good?
I'm never going to be as good as Dr. Taco.
Oh man.
I bet you Kumayama was sitting in his dressing room and was like, I'll never be as good as him. Hair and makeup, give me an upside down bat signal mustache.
Yeah.
I need something silly.
Then they'll know I'm evil.
He does have a great villainous mustache. And
I do think in watching this one too, like whenever I thought about Godzilla before watching these, and when people think about Godzilla now, I know who like don't know the films, you never realize how comedic they are, especially these early ones. Like I always assumed they were more of a serious venture, like a thriller kind of thing. Not a thriller, but whatever, action. But they're really going for the comedy.
Yeah, it's very intentionally fun. There's certainly unintentional laughs, but a lot of these movies, they're doing genuinely funny things.
Yeah. Let's put Will Ferrell in the next Godzilla and see what happens.
Yeah, I'd be all for it. He did a great job in the Lego movie.
Wasn't there, am I crazy, but was there a moment when they looked at the giant egg and they just, like, took the price of a normal egg and just multiplied it by, like, how big that egg was?
Totally. And I think they got $163,000.
Yeah, that's,
which is a pretty low price.
That's a great line. It's like, this egg is approximately equivalent to 153,000 chicken eggs.
How did he know that?
Well, he probably asked the egg man who works with the reporters, and he was like, "Oh, that's my daily egg budget."
Right, exactly.
It's just a world where, like, the two fairy girls are, like, that's a totally normal thing with miniature people running around, and then also with, like, the giant eggs. Like, are all Godzilla movies like this, where it's like, we live in this world and, like, this is totally normal? Like, is that a thing?
Yes.
By this point, yes. The first one is very serious, but by the time we've gotten here, it's
a little kooky.
Monsters are an everyday occurrence.
Okay.
Also, wait, can we talk about the telepathy? Just the fact that, Sam, do you want to bring up the point of can they do it or not?
Oh, whether they can teleport?
Oh, you're talking about teleportation.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, so as they're watching the movie, Ryan was like, oh yeah, they also can teleport for some reason. And I am convinced they cannot. I am convinced that, because otherwise, why would you carry them around in a box? I think that they just escaped.
The box is purely for glamour, Sam.
There's nothing glamorous about living in a box. Ask my uncle.
But this is a nice box. We've progressed from the cage that they were in the last movie to this nice, like, intricately carved, perfectly stained wood grain with velvet on the inside. It is a nice box.
With the teleporting, I feel like they move in boxes when they want to move in boxes. Like, they were only moved in a box when they needed to give a message. But every time people tried,
they wanted, like, a reveal. Because how could they end up on that tree limb? But the thing is,
I think they climbed.
When they were
so far.
They're good climbers in those little tiny heels. But the thing is, when they were trying to run away from those bad guys, they really weren't getting far. They would only go 2 feet at a time, and they would still be running. So what's the purpose of teleporting yourself 2 feet to still have to run?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, just put yourself up on the ceiling.
Maybe they were just anxious. It's like when you're nervous, you can't do it right.
It's like Peter Pan, you have to, like, think happy thoughts to fly.
So I have a story about each of our villains. So when I was a kid, I don't want to get into it too much, but my parents really don't like cigarettes. They don't like smoking. As a kid, I hated it because of A, what they were telling me, and B, I had asthma, and, like, I still have bad reactions to tobacco smoke to this day. I don't like it. But as a kid, I thought Kumayama was just, like, had done one of the most evil things imaginable when he blows smoke in the Junko's camera. I was like, that's just one of the most despicable things you could possibly
That's
do.
Hilarious that you say that, because I had the opposite. I thought of it like a film student, where I was like, man, that shot that camera's going to get is going to have such nice cinematic shafts of light, all that smoke. Oh, it's going to be he's just helping out the photographer. You don't even need to haze the scene.
No, Ryan, I too would have thought it was the most evil thing, and as we were watching it, in my mind, I was like, that smoke is ruining her camera completely, even though I don't think one puff of smoke could do that, but my mind was like, it is, though, because I come from the same background of you, of being as an asthmatic child. I used to run, when I was in cross country, I'd, like, run past people on the street who were smoking, and as I ran past, I would specifically be like, so mean.
I do the same thing when I walk by smoking people, and I can't even help it. I'm not even meaning to be rude. I'm just, like, terrified that I'll have trouble breathing.
I know. It is hard to quit, though. I was, like, kind of mean and not considerate of the fact that people who try it is hard to do, but...
Also, it looks so cool.
Righteous 12-year-olds. That's right,
Yeah.
Sam. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Cool Kids Club. Which we all know none of us were in.
I was in second grade. My friends and I had the Dude Club, and I was one of the members. I was Tall Dude in the Dude Club. We all had a code name because this
Is this true? Or are you bullshitting us right now?
why would I bullshit this? This is absolutely true.
Did you guys have a clubhouse?
No,
girls
no.
allowed.
We just walked around the playground looking.
Did you stand on the corner with leather jackets and sing doo-wop?
No, again, we didn't do any of the things that dudes would do. We just were dudes.
I remember once there was like a dude meeting, like, in my dorm when I was in college, And they had free pizza, and I wanted free pizza. So I went with my roommate, and we just drew fake mustaches and like put like baseball caps backwards on, and just ran and like stole the pizza, and we're like, that's it, you know. I feel like that's
Good for
fun,
you.
know?
Honestly.
Just for the record, because we were progressive second graders, there were girls in the dude club, but they all of them had the name Girl Dude.
Girl dude. My other story about Torihata is he's played by Kenji Sahara, right? Who's been in a lot of these movies, and he's always like the hero. He's very genuine. So it's kind of silly to see him as the villain. He doesn't do it quite right, but it's very fun. And when I saw him at G-Fest, he told a story about this movie that says a lot about his performance to me, where he was saying, you know, there's a scene where Kumiyama is like beating him up, and there's blood running out of his nose. And they did a couple takes with just like a little trickle coming out. So Kenji Sahara goes to the director, Ishiro Honda, and he says, you need to pour more blood on me. Bad guys have thinner blood, so I should be bleeding more. Put more blood on me.
That is true, Ryan. You didn't know that?
No,
Common
I
fact.
wasn't aware that the more evil you are, the more you bleed.
It does work, too. It looks pretty gruesome. Like, that's the most gruesome thing we've seen so far, right? In Godzilla?
Yeah, and there's even a shot kind of the American version that's possibly even more gruesome, where Kumiyama gets shot in the head, and there's like blood running off of his forehead from a wound. It's like it's a little more grim than you would expect from this movie.
See, when he got shot and Godzilla was walking up to the window, I thought Godzilla had suddenly developed laser pointer eyes, and that's how he died. I thought the other guy shot out the window at Godzilla in some final act, you know, trying to save himself, and then Godzilla laser pointed at the other guy.
Yeah, it's very confusingly cut. And speaking of Godzilla, he's got some wobbly jowls in this movie.
Oh boy!
Oh, does he? Wobbly, wobbly, wobbly.
I was so charmed when I saw the jowls on Godzilla. I was like, this is my... and this is not just because of that, but that's a big factor. But favorite Godzilla design so far. For sure. Like, he actually... A, because the jowls are just... They're so endearing. But B, he also actually, like... he seemed a little more fluid. When we got those wide shots of him walking around getting shot endlessly with no effect, I thought he looks like he's got a little pep in his step.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some feedback from Haruo Nakajima, and so the suit's thinner than ever. It allows him to move around a little bit more. But yeah, this suit is a fan favorite design, which I've never quite agreed with, but I see it worked for you.
Oh yeah. Again, I want my Godzilla to look like Nixon. just jowls from just all the way down his face. Yeah.
And Joanna, you were pointing out that he's really been a jerk the last couple movies. Like last movie, he was beating up on a poor old junkie, and in this one, he's killing a sick, dying woman.
Yeah, what? He's just like a grumpy old man who woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and then it just all goes downhill. Like, I felt bad when he ran into that temple. Like, that was an accident, him kind of tripping on that, but the rest of it was just mean. I don't like bullies, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like when you were in a bad mood when you were a kid, where like you accidentally like stepped on a Lego piece and then stumbled and broke a Lego set, and then you were so mad about it that you're just like, fine, I'm breaking all the Legos, and you just throw a tantrum, you break
Still
all
me
them.
today.
Yeah. So basically, you are Godzilla. I think that's what happened to him. He was just having a nice day, tripped and fell.
When I couldn't get my Audacity to work earlier, I was like, oh, I'm so mad! And I was like, why am I so reacting? Like, it was doing a thing that I'm used to the usual difficulties of my computer, but it started a new thing on me today, and I was like, it's okay, Joanna. It is just a computer.
Are you kidding though? If Godzilla had a computer, can you imagine the rage?
Don't even.
God.
He'd be going through them on a daily basis. He'd be spending a lot of money on new computers.
Yeah.
I feel like he's mean, but he's not that mean. Like, he kind of went to, like, the rural areas and the countryside, and he wasn't, like, going for the masses to just kill them. I just felt like there wasn't a lot of that.
But, like, he killed a mother whose babies were being born.
Well,
It's pretty brutal.
Did I not see that?
And he killed all the crops in the countryside, you know? Like, how's the city gonna get food? He's got a plan.
I mean, he really just needs a friend, though, which he may have soon.
But how
Or
can he
a
get one? Because he
map.
never lets anyone get close, you know? any other monster he just beats up on, even if they're old. Ugh, I can't talk about it.
You know, there's probably a day where I woke up, was having a bad day, opened my closet, saw a moth eating a shirt, and I killed the moth, and then I went and made an omelet. And that's actually what Godzilla's day was. I Team Godzilla. I feel for him.
I'm on that boat. I mean, when he really, he tripped and he fell on the temple, it didn't seem like he wanted to do that, but he was just like, I'm already here. Like, let's just do this, I'm going to be who you expect me to be.
Yeah, that's it. He's leaning into what they want him to be.
Sam, my number one thought when you said that was just like, eggs.
No lie, I'm gonna go eat eggs.
You're turning into the Eggman.
I am the Eggman. I already am the Eggman.
Eggman is all of us, Ryan.
I'm gonna be Eggman for Halloween.
Eggman's the jam.
That'd be awesome. Can we please do a group costume of Godzilla characters?
Only if you go as Godzilla and have the full jowls and tail intact.
Joanna, do you want to do a 2-person costume where you go as this guy, the egg character from this movie, and I go as a literal walrus?
Yes, please. That'll work for me.
What a mess. But rounding out our cast is Mothra, who is just forever my hero. I have an entry in the famous first grade journal. I'm going to put it on social media. But it's a drawing of Mothra, and underneath I wrote, Mothra is good. She will save all of us.
Oh.
I really believed in her.
Ryan, did you cry when Mothra died?
It's funny. As I get older, I actually do choke up a little bit. We'll get to that in a moment.
Whoa.
Oh my god. The fan community really loves Mothra. She is, I have my faves, but everyone I know who is a Godzilla fan, she comes up as like number 1 or 2 usually for monsters.
She's constantly appearing, and I think the relationship between Godzilla and Mothra is interesting. It's going to evolve as these movies go on.
And she has a good support system, right? Like she has the singing fairies, and she has a bunch of people in a cave that just kind of root for her, that are just dressed all kinds of ways. I think Mothra...
She's very emotionally well adjusted. You're right.
I don't know if I like her as much as everyone does, because I actually think everyone likes her for her supporting players. It's like for her friends. People like her for her friends. She's like that, you know what I mean? Like I don't think Mothra's got all that much going on. I feel like Mothra's just flying around and everyone's like, "Oh, she's a mother." And it's like, well, we only say that because we've seen her kids. It's not like she told him a bedtime story and then went and had a
because she never had a chance to.
I don't know, Ryan. I might have just struck a nerve.
You can be bitter if you want to, but I will keep my genuine love for Mothra. Let's try to go through some of the highlights of the movie. The first one for me was the bad guys trying to capture the fairies, mainly because there's this gigantic apartment set. For Emi and Yumi Ito, they built this huge set that's supposed to look like an apartment and make them look tiny, and it's just wonderful. These don't exist now, they'd always do it with blue screen or something. But they actually built a huge portion of a chair and a shelf and a gigantic plate, and I love
Holy cow. Wait, so they had them shooting in that fake massive set, and then were the boys shooting in a regular size set?
Yeah. There was a normal sized set and then a gigantic one, but they look the same.
Also, there are tiny sets for Godzilla to walk around in, so they actually ran the gamut on... Wow.
They had a lot of sets.
They did. 3 different sizes of set.
Guys, I highly recommend, if you take the Warner Brothers tour ever, doing standing in front of the camera from The Hobbit. That places Gandalf with all the hobbits. It's pretty great. It's a great fun time. LA
recommendation, Joanna's Corner.
Yeah.
Ooh,
it would be pretty fun if they just for fun they had put Godzilla on the giant mantle set and then had the Peanuts stomp around in the city. And just had some alternate,
that would have been funny.
That's an alternate cut
That would be amazing if they had that on a DVD somewhere.
That's the movie I want to see. The twins versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
That is the movie I want to see.
Like, if they can get bigger, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, what if
Wearing their furs.
we do like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of spin-off to Godzilla?
Exactly.
Honey, I Blew Up the Fairies.
Oh my god. It writes itself.
It does.
And then a little bit later, they're talking to the good guys in the woods outside the hotel, which is weird to begin with, that there's like a forest surrounding this hotel. They like tell the heroes like, oh yeah, Mothra's here. And they're like, where? And they're looking around and can't see her. And I'm just thinking like, how can Mothra sneak up on you?
That's what I was thinking.
And while they're out in this construction site, like taking pictures and stuff, there's a land developer here who has a very bold look. He's got like dark orange sunglasses and a Hitler mustache.
There are a lot of good mustaches in this movie.
There are a lot of good mustaches. It's a bold look for him. I'm not sure if I would try that in the 60s, but he's going for it.
That's like one of us grooming ourselves like a villain from the early 2000s.
Right. If we had a Osama bin Laden beard or something.
Like if I just presented myself as Casey Anthony everywhere I went. Done. I'm basically the man version of her. So.
And speaking of this radioactive object, later Professor Mira de-radiates Sakai and Junko in the classic 1960s style.
That made me miss Austin Powers especially.
Yeah, he sprays them with hot purple mist, and they're okay.
Also, he is looking like sweating, and he's like kind of dying in that little chamber. She's just like very comfortable, kind of having the time. You know what I mean? She's just like, she did not seem affected at all.
Yeah, she likes it hot. It's like that classic thing. Women are always cold.
We say as literally the two women on this podcast had to go and get jackets or robes.
It's chilly in my apartment.
Hey man, it's a foggy day and it's raining. This is LA. We don't get rain.
It's not raining where I am, so that's fair. It's even cheesier than Dr. No because they even get to keep their clothes on. At least in Dr. No, you can kind of imagine like some kind of radioactive particle is being scrubbed off them, but no, this is just like
there's not much. You can't defend Dr. No.
No, you can't.
That's an infamous scene where this is. I'm hopping in as the James Bond fan and explaining this, but yeah, basically they're roaming around on an island. It's Ursula Andress and Sean Connery, and then the bad guys capture them, and they're like, "Wait, careful! They could be radioactive." And they just basically put them on like a car wash conveyor belt with people with big mops scrubbing them. And it's like really an excuse to like see their head and shoulders and imply nudity more than anything. But yeah, then they are done. They're like, all right, you're not radioactive anymore. You're good.
Very true. One of the biggest highlights of the movie for me is when our heroes go to visit Infant Island. And when they first arrive, there's this big turtle in the background, which is this eternal mystery of Godzilla fandom. Is it dead or alive? Why is it there?
It was moving.
Definitely shaking its head.
Its head is moving, and it looks like it's blinking. But it's been pointed out that it could be like a skeleton, like moving in the wind.
It is absolutely supposed to be a skeleton. You see like the rib cage of another dead dinosaur, and then a skeleton of a turtle. Except that the skeleton of the turtle is totally moving. It is bonkers.
I like to think that it was just a shot and no one noticed it, and then it was just too freaking late for them to do anything about it, and they were like, just put it in. This movie's wacky enough.
Or maybe there was just a real turtle who maybe he won the contest to have a cameo in the movie, and they were like, all right, you have to pretend to be dead, but he just couldn't resist like moving his head around.
Yeah.
Wait, but it was a skeleton, right?
Totally.
It's supposed to be.
If it was not a skeleton, I would like to think that they would at least comment on the massive turtle. There's no way it could have been alive.
It doesn't look like a skeleton. It looks like it has like a real face. It's not like bones. It's very weird. But I always have to point that, well, I don't have to point that out. Everyone always sees it. I always have to talk about it. It's so weird.
And it's weird when you see it too. You're like, did it happen? Because it only happens like twice.
Yeah, it's mysterious. It's like, did the Munchkin really hang himself in Wizard of Oz?
Okay, guys, that is such no. We know it is not true. It has absolutely been debunked, and it is absolutely. It doesn't even look like that. It looks like it's like a peacock behind a tree, and the peacock flaps its wings, and everyone's like, "That's it." And I'm like, "You're insane." Girl from high school who told me that, and I had to watch the whole movie to see if it was true.
That made you way angrier than I thought it would.
I couldn't believe it. That is so obviously not a true myth.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's right. You stepped on a nerve.
Yeah.
I clearly did. I gotta back off the Wizard of Oz trivia. All right, so they're on the island, and Junko and Sakai make this great speech about the necessity of working together for the brotherhood of man that we all share. It's this like, it's cheesy, but it's this really kind of inspirational speech. There's this great part of it where they say something like, we distrust each other, but it's wrong, and we can all do better for the world. It legitimately influenced my worldview as a kid, and I don't know, it's just like the things that you hear and you see as a kid, even if they're kind of melodramatic like this, really make an impact on you. And for me, it was the first time I thought about, well, like, wow, like the world isn't just what I can see. It's not just my family or my country. There's like a whole different groups of people out there, each with their own concerns, and we should all work together. So yeah, I really love this film.
Oh, Ryan, that is very, very, very nice, and not my reaction. Yeah.
As a callback to previous episodes, that is precious.
I don't mean it. I genuinely mean.
I loved you just fighting to not say it.
She wanted to say precious.
It's like in the old sitcom where it's like, oh, if you curse again, you're gonna have to put money in the cursing jar.
I really, really tried. But I do mean it in like the tenderest of ways, and I just like that was
Tender's another one.
Sam, like, did you take away any emotional reaction from that part?
This is where I'm going to be the most unprecious person, though.
Let's tear it.
Okay, Ryan, I hear what you're saying, and in and of itself, I think it's very. I mean, granted, I'm not 9. You know, now I'm seeing this as a grown man, with the emotional maturity of a 9-year-old, and
7.
But
to be.
all right, yeah. So. To me, the problem with it is, at this point in the movie, I'm starting to feel like things are happening purely because they need to happen, like for plot convenience sake. And so this big speech, I'm not taking away like, wow, these characters are really saying something really moving, and these other characters are believing it despite their true feelings, or what they were, how they felt before, and changing their minds. I just felt like, man, these writers really needed to get them to do this thing, because especially it's true and it's sad, but this is how I felt, so I feel the need to share it.
Yeah, I kind of felt probably like 10 minutes before this of like, oh, they all feel the same in so many ways to me right now. But I think too, once they go to the island, like, it just doesn't compare to King Kong for me, so I was a little like, it's not the same. Where's the giant octopus?
Yeah, I think it is that there was a lot of just like, and I'll air one of my biggest grievances later, I think, when we get to it. But like, there are a lot of things that are happening because they need to happen for the movie to go the way that it's gonna go. And so it was like, I was feeling that already, and so yeah, it kind of lost a little of its resonance to me. But
Ryan, that is not to take away from your emotions about it or your love of it at all.
You are no less precious.
Yes.
Oh, I'll be precious enough for all of us. Well, I can't fully agree. I think that there's a number of like conveniences in the script, but they don't bother me so much. I'm willing to go along with it because they don't stick out to me as unnatural. Like, why would you do that? It's just it feels very natural, even if it's all happening very quickly until the last third of the movie where everything starts happening really slowly. But we'll get to that soon.
Yeah.
That might be it.
See, and I just started seeing again, like, okay, fight big monster number 1. Okay, is it? No, it's not done. We go to the island. Okay, number 2 monster fight. It's coming back. Like, it felt very formulaic. So I'm curious to see what new films might have for me, or if it will be all the same again and again.
I can't wait for the next one where they just, the monsters don't even fight at all, and they all just sit down. It's actually kind of like a My Dinner with Andre.
Right.
They just have a philosophical conversation for an hour.
Ryan, would you be down for like a Godzilla that was just a total reimagining of that caliber? Or would that be wrong
character,
to you?
that he's just like so misunderstood?
I kind of would. Like, I can imagine like a Julie Taymor-esque like Godzilla stage play where all of the monsters are done with abstract costumes and they all represent different strong viewpoints. Maybe Julie Taymor isn't the right reference to make here, but you know what I'm getting at? Like,
yeah.
Like a postmodern stage Godzilla.
I think
that'd be fun.
On ice? No, I'm just kidding. That would totally ruin that.
Yes!
Or on ice. And then once they've done this speech, the Twin Fairies perform Sacred Springs, which is a beautiful song. And then it's a little more vague in the American version, but in the Japanese version, it's not so much any of the natives that they've persuaded or even the Twin Fairies, but it's Mothra herself who decides to go despite the reluctance of the people of her island. And so you have kind of the culmination of everything Shinichi Sekizawa's been writing towards, where people are like reasoning with monsters and using monsters to move the plot forward, and people and monsters sort of interact together. So you finally have humans reasoning with a monster and asking it to do something, which as a screenwriting nerd I think is kind of a cool maybe not invention, but it's something you didn't see very often. Yes, Mothra is flying to save the day. She comes to the beach just as Godzilla is about to attack her egg, and it's a really fun fight. It's one of my favorites in this classic period, and it feels like just the right length. Doesn't go on too long, but you get some good ups and downs. You get to see Mothra like busting out all the stops, even though
a shit ton of wind.
Yes,
so windy.
I especially love the part where she's sort of barnstorming Godzilla and just like quickly flying and flapping around his head and, you know, sort of buffeting him. And it's shot in this cool way with all these quick close shots that really like put you in Godzilla's place and make you feel as confused and disoriented as he is.
It's the Bourne ultimatum of Godzilla's.
It is. They really stepped up the camera game during that segment.
I liked whatever she was spraying on him. That was making him sleepy.
Yes, her infamous poison powder.
Poison powder.
Is that coming from her wings?
It is.
So it's like when you were little and you tried to catch moths with your fingers, and then you got like that gold powder on them.
Yeah, exactly.
That was poisonous this whole time.
Yep. Why do you think you are the way you are? But yeah, then of course Mothra dies because she's very weak, and you know Godzilla is being a big jerk. And
yeah, this is where I have no sympathy for that animal.
Which one?
Godzilla. He's just being mean to a dying mom.
And I mean, I know the context makes it silly, but it legitimately gets to me a little bit when she dies. Because, I mean, when you think about her character, she's been betrayed by humanity multiple times. In the last Mothra movie, you know, her twin priestesses were stolen away, and, like, natives on the island were just shot and killed. And, you know, all the nuclear tests. And in this one, they couldn't get her egg back, so she's dying. She really has, like, every reason to say no. But she agrees because she has that generosity of spirit and forgiveness, and she makes the sacrifice. And I don't know, it's really cool. She's like a real character who makes a real sacrifice. There's some stakes to it, to me as a huge Godzilla nerd, at least. And the last little touch that always gets me is that when she's dying, the last thing she does is rest her wing over the egg to sort of protect that that's her last moment.
Yeah,
it's very
I
sad.
agree that moment hit me with sadness a bit, but just hearing you talk about it and saying how she was betrayed by humanity, like big things like that, I'm like, I think I need to start watching these movies with these like bigger ideas in mind, and then maybe there'll be a bit of more of a pool for me, you know?
Yeah, because I got none of that. Ryan, from an asshole's perspective, here's what I see, I know people love Mothra and say the similar things that you do and see those, and I think we assign those things to her because there are a lot of characters around her. And what I see is maybe Mothra feels those things, but I can't tell, and I know that she has 2 tiny women and a bunch of natives who speak for her and say these things, but I don't know. To me, Mothra comes off as relatively flat monster-y to me. And that stuff is all said. I'm not seeing it, and I feel like I'm the worst human alive, but that's why I'm here.
That's why he's here, a resident asshole.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. All I can say is I've said from the beginning, you really have to use your imagination when you watch these movies, and they encourage you to. And if you just take everything at face value, yeah, you're not really gonna get that. But I think that if you just are willing to invest a little bit of magic into it, you get a lot out, and that's what I get with, just personally.
Yeah, you're a better person than me. We've established this. Here's another thing, and we're getting to just the things that I get hung up on in movies, is I'm not willing to give that level of imagination when something like what happened previous to this, which is Godzilla's going to eat that egg. And he's gonna eat the egg, and then Mothra comes to stop him from eating the egg, and he kills Mothra, and then just leaves the egg as if he never was going to eat it. And that kind of stuff, when that happens, it drives me crazy, and I can't give things the benefit of the imagination doubt when that level of like, well, and then that just is stuff just happening now. And then I can't do the fill in the blanks when it feels like the obvious blanks aren't getting filled in.
I don't know. I see it as like Godzilla is just like caught off guard from being attacked by Mothra, and he's like, now I'm being kind of
do it.
He's like emotionally distraught. He has to take some time to like go off on his own. He's not hungry anymore.
I don't know. Actor motivation. Don't go for the egg if you're not going to take it, you know? I don't think you're just going to be so distracted that you forget you're hungry.
I don't know if we can read in.
No, he doesn't forget he's hungry. It's like, haven't you ever like been really excited to like do something and go to lunch with someone, and then they drop a bomb on you, and you just like, you don't feel like eating anymore? No. It's like that. You've never had that happen to you?
Nothing would stop me from eating a giant egg.
Nothing comes to mind.
Boy, you guys are really, really playing the part of the jaded, emotionless.
Right,
I'm more just saying I'm in support of food.
That's your only allegiance, Joe.
I'm just misunderstood.
As like, I can't harp on this because we're here to talk about and love these movies, but I'll just say it's hard. That seems to me like more of covering up a kind of, I wouldn't say a fault of the movie, but certainly like it kind of didn't have the strongest reasoning in a place, and it feels like imagination. It feels like you're both doing the work to fill in the emotional beats for Mothra, but also, you know, where it doesn't seem to be one. And then the same thing with Godzilla here, where I'm convinced those aren't there, I guess is all I'm saying. So yeah, no, I'm the asshole. All right, I'm done. Also, food is good. I've said this, where I'm just repeating myself at this point.
Now my plan to monologue to you guys for the rest of the episodes is coming to fruition. Only joking. This is why you're here, to give me these harsh reality checks. But I will absolutely stand up for the idea of these monsters having character if you're willing to put some imagination into the things that they do.
Oh, King Kong for sure. The rest of them.
How much imagination does it take to see that the rattiest, matted hair, like droopy eyelid,
He's over
like
it.
guy is just tired and sad? Like that's right there. to think that to see Mothra fly around and be like, this, she's a poet. She writes poetry. And also it has really strong views on Neapolitanism. I don't have any philosophy.
Sam is gonna get some strong comments on this.
All right. I'm not going that far. Okay,
All right, let's move on.
I think everything I said is really
Sam
right there.
could go on
level.
for another 45 minutes uninterrupted if we let him.
The geeky side of me has really been activated now, and I really want to fight Sam on this. I could honestly
pick
go.
a date
I feel like
and
he could go
time.
an hour back.
Are you
and
so
forth.
rattled you're willing to leave your egg alone?
Exactly. I no longer feel like eating my egg.
Give it to me, I'll
I
eat
am
it.
focused. Again, I could go on for an hour, or we could go back and forth for an hour. So I will have to call ceasefire. I'll extend the olive
Sam,
branch
take it.
of what I think is one of the most contrived parts of the movie, which is in the final act, you get this idea where somebody's like, I guess it's the principal running around saying, "Help! Like the teachers are trapped on the island, and the children." And it comes out of nowhere, and it's pointless, and it exists entirely so that the human characters have something to do in the last act, something to keep them busy. That said, I have fun with how silly it is, and it's better than a lot of later movies where they literally stand on a hill and watch the last fight, and that's it.
Oh no, much repetition to come. My one thing was like the teacher was way too stressed. Like you got to be calm in those situations. She was not helping out her kids.
Right, she was gonna have a bad performance review this year.
Think about how much of this could have been solved if we had just given all these teachers guns.
Oh man.
Right? They could have fought off Godzilla themselves. No problem.
Don't bring a gun to a Godzilla fight or something or other.
But yeah, the egg hatches and the two twin caterpillars come out, which is like the most non-twist twist of all time. Then they go to fight Godzilla, and the idea of this fight, where these little worms are outsmarting and like avoiding Godzilla and very carefully and cautiously taking him down, it's an interesting idea, but it just goes on way too long.
It is also the most disgusting scene ever put on film. Like, it is absolutely gag-inducing to watch these worms just squirt silk, I hope, onto Godzilla for 15
Hours.
minutes.
No, hours.
There's shades of Bukake there.
Pixelate those larvae, please, because
They film it. They film it from like 37 different angles. They get all kind of shots of these boys.
Man.
Yeah, it's a little Freudian and very slow. You get Godzilla just kind of throwing a fit after a while, kicking rocks around and melting rocks and not really doing much apart from getting hit with webs.
And then at the end, like, is he dead or is he just gone for now? Like, why is that an acceptable ending?
I think
you know?
I think it's acceptable because at this point you just have to be like, look, Godzilla's not gonna die.
Right, there's going to be a sequel.
So like you just have to think like, all right, what's sending him away for now? What's ending this chapter of the very long Godzilla saga?
He's got to just wait it out until those larvae get dehydrated and can't silk him anymore.
Yeah, he's got to wait for the refractory period to kick in. All right, we'll stop. But yeah, then the movie ends very suddenly. And the larvae swim off, and the good guys wave at them, and goodbye.
They, like, waddle off. Yeah, it's weird.
Do you guys? Did we miss anything? Is there anything you
I
guys
don't
want to
think
touch
so.
on?
I feel
that
like
happens
we-
in the movie.
I have some more grievances to air, I guess, but
Well, you can do that in your
Oh
rating.
God.
oh, and I was never invited back.
All right, so now we have something very exciting, something we've never done on the show before. But Melinda, you're gonna do a couple songs for us, right?
Yep, I am.
Great. And one of them is Sacred Springs, right?
Yes, Sacred Springs will be the first one.
Mhm.
That'll be with voice and some other goodies, and then I'll be doing Down to the River. And that's a song by Sugar Tantrum, and it's also after the Brown Bird song of the same name. So, yeah.
Yes. You have a great take on it. I love it when you guys do this song, so I'm excited to hear that as well.
Aw, thanks, Mings.
Of course, and I think the audience, you'll love it too. So go ahead and take us away with your little mini concert, Melinda. So, as we come to a close, I would like to ask you all, what is your final judgment on Mothra versus Godzilla? And I do mean judgment, because we've talked about it and we sort of want to formalize our rating system for these movies. And Sam, would you explain what it is?
Yeah. So we were talking about a way where we could have kind of a grading scale that each of us could give, a grade to the film, and we can then go back and look at previous ones and compare. And we'll probably go back to the previous ones that we haven't done, but it would be good to give each of our opinions on the film in some sort of concrete way. So we thought, we're the Godzillavangelists. We should, you can either send this film to heaven, purgatory, or hell. You can choose which one of the three to damn each movie to, if you would like. And I think we all agree hell on this one, right?
I agree. Purgatory, no chance of heaven.
No chance at heaven, you think?
Wow.
Oh, not at all. No chance.
Explain.
Please explain, Joanna, before I dig myself a deeper
well,
hole.
for me, Rodan is the living hell, and that's a low ball to have to hit. So this one had a few, I like Mothra. The egg moment was tender. There were a few things, but generally it was just felt a lot the same. They were super mean to that one woman. There was they had the island thing again. I've seen it now twice. So yeah, just floating in purgatory. It's not one that I would ever, like King Kong, I'd be like, yeah, I'd watch that again. This one I would not. So purgatory for me.
Wow.
Fair enough.
I prefer the original Mothra over this one.
I do too. I like OG Mothra more than this as well. And ultimately, I'm not too far off disagreement with you. I can't quite send this one to heaven right away. I would put it in purgatory as well, although I think with good behavior, Mothra versus Godzilla can make it up to heaven someday. But not this day. And it's such a shame, because I really do enjoy the first 2/3 of the movie a lot. I like the sort of wacky, very distinctly Godzilla series plot of the egg being washed up and, taken by greedy businessmen, and there's a fight for control of the egg, and the fairies are like active legal agents of Mothra, essentially, which is kind of fun. And like I said, there's some emotional heft to what Mothra does, at least for me. But then you just hit the last third, and it's so slow and unnecessary, with the many military plots to take down Godzilla, which we've seen variants of in previous movies, and the fight with the larva goes on too long, and rescuing the teachers and the kids is kind of a weak plot to wrap up the human story with. So it sins quite a bit in the last part, but I'll still say purgatory with a chance of heaven.
Yeah, it's funny. I said hell earlier as a joke because I'm playing up the fact my antagonistic, behavior toward Ryan. I actually almost 100% agree with what Ryan said, and I went about halfway through the movie and was like, this is pretty squarely in heaven. I'm enjoying this. I actually wrote, one of my notes was, this is a fever dream in the best way.
Wow.
Because it's wild, it's wacky, and and there's an Eggman, and I enjoyed the characters enough, and it was I think the fastest paced, at least to start out, of any of them, and I was really enjoying it. And then things just started happening, and it just became stuff happening, and that is the most unforgivable sin of all, and that those sins sent it down like probably upper purgatory for me.
All right, so we weren't too far apart after all.
No, it's almost like we're friends again.
Yes, we can all sit in church together.
Now I have a balcony seat.
All right, so Melinda, what do you think? Are you going to send Mothra versus Godzilla to Godzilla Heaven, Hell, or Purgatory?
I vote Purgatory.
That's a popular opinion today.
Well, I'm thinking, the Mothra stuff, like, she's got a whole support squad, she's got a whole soundtrack, she saved the kids on the island, that's a big deal. I think there's something to that. I think I agree with everyone, that last third of the movie kind of zonked out, but I gotta give it up for the first 2/3 and the Eggman.
Praise Eggman. What would we do without him? Well, despite our mixed feelings, we are Godzillavangelists, and the Book of Mothra is a core part of our belief system, so we have to respect what she's taught us today. So if you would like to tell us what you think of some of what we've been doing with the new show, or if you really liked this show, or you have something cool or interesting to tell us, send us an email or a comment on YouTube. But best of all is if you leave a review on our iTunes page, or anywhere else you can leave a review. I think that's actually the only place we have to leave a proper review, but maybe there's somewhere that I'm not aware of. But anywhere you can leave a review, please do. And of course, make sure to mention whether you like Sam or Joanna better, because that's the ongoing debate.
Please always mention it.
Yeah, it's either 1 star. Is choose one of us, or it's 1 star. There are no other options.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't do 1 star.
Don't.
So
Don't
that's out of the question, because you like us so much. So you got to choose one of us. Is what
They're
I'm saying.
gonna be like, Sam hates these movies.
They choose Joanna.
I mean, but even then, I feel like ultimately, going by the final review, you almost had a more positive look
Yeah,
at the
that's
movie
true.
than Joanna.
I was like, I was sitting
So
here like, what?
you never can
What
predict.
is he saying?
I'm like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Like, you think I hate
changed your
you,
opinions.
and maybe I do, but I'm also nice sometimes.
But mostly just psychotic.
Mostly just
Yeah.
an asshole.
I have a very fun message for us today. This one's from Andrew, who works at a small video label, actually, which is pretty cool. And he was telling me that the frontman of the band Oxygen Destroyer is one of his customers, and he listens to the show, and he got the biggest kick out of knowing that we talked about them on the show.
Oh man!
So congrats on featuring them. So.
Rock on, dudes.
And you just lost all our cred. We also had our first polite correction, although he's not sure and I'm not sure either, but there's some doubt about it. He is telling me that he hasn't been able to find anything on Sekazawa being part of the Communist Party, which is fair. I couldn't recall where I read or saw that off the top of my head, so we might have that wrong. I'm not gonna bring this up every time we get something wrong, but Andrew was real nice about it, and I've been saying it a lot, so I thought we should mention it.
Thank you, Andrew.
And with that, another Godzilla Evangelist comes to a close. So put your hands together in prayer and say good day / good night.
Good day / good night, everybody.
Good day / good night, everybody.
Godzilla Evangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends, Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. We'd like to thank our fabulous editor and mixer, Rachel Deering. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzilla Evangelists is a satirical, critical work, not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at GodzillaEvangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast, and Instagram at Godzillavangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel, and the latest episode is always on SoundCloud too. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next episode. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.